There's no afternoon like this one. It's really such a pleasure and a privilege to be here, and my honor to introduce Lonnie Bunch. So as a little boy, Lonnie Bunch's grandfather, a dentist who earlier in his life had been a sharecropper, would read history books to him. And young Lonnie was particularly bothered by the fact that the pictures of Black children, so kids like him, were most often labeled as unknown children or anonymous. It's easy to see the roots of his life's work in the questioning and discomfort. Early on, Lonnie knew that the story of African Americans in this country was incomplete, and he has devoted his entire professional life, over more than 30 years, to filling out that story, to finding the images and artifacts and histories that could articulate the beauty, complexity, and weight of the lives that have for hundreds of years been dismissed as anonymous and unknown. Born in Newark, New Jersey, Lonnie Bunch built on his academic training as an urban historian to become one of the foremost public historians in the country, a scholar who brings history to the people. Looking back at his time as the first curator of the California African American Museum, and as president of the Chicago Historical Society, and of course, as his long and impactful career at the Smithsonian, Lonnie summed up his guiding mission in an interview with Smithsonian Magazine, and he said, "As a historian, my whole career has been about expanding the canon, about making sure that you understand that the only way any of us can understand America is through different lenses." If museums are to accomplish their mission, he said that it's crucially important for them to open the veil of how they do the work they do, so that even they understand the implicit biases they carry, the cultural baggage. It's important to recognize that if we're going to engage the audience, if we're going to be places of value, then we must understand who we are and who we aren't. Lonnie Bunch's appointment as the 14th Secretary of the Smithsonian, the first African American to lead the institution in its 173-year history, was met with excitement throughout the museum and art worlds. And I think, honestly, the only person who was surprised by the outpouring of emotion and good wishes was Lonnie himself, which I think speaks volumes for his humility. The Washington Post's Philip Kennicott wrote, "As the first museum director to be named head of the Smithsonian in almost 75 years, he understands museums, which are the Smithsonian's greatest scholarly and public asset." Kinshasha Holman Conwell, deputy director of the National Museum for African American History and Culture, said, "This is a great moment for America. It's a great moment for the humanities, and there's no one on earth I admire more." If the chief job of a public historian is, as Kennicott said, to put forward unpleasant facts and discomforting truths, Lonnie Bunch has perfected that work, and nowhere more evidently than in the lines that still snake around the National Museum of African American History and Culture, a 400,000 square foot building designed by David Adjaye and within sight lines of the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial. With its more than 35,000 artifacts, the museum has, under Lonnie's founding and direction, brought the history of African Americans in this country into the light and has rendered it inextricable from the American history that the Smithsonian has put on view since its founding in 1846, a year in which Lonnie Bunch's ancestors were still enslaved, anonymous, and unknown. For his tireless commitment to and leadership in rendering the history of the United States and of African Americans vivid in all its diversity and richness, the Hutchins Center recognizes Lonnie G. Bunch III with the W.E.B. Du Bois Medal.
Now, this is a big deal for some guy from New Jersey, so. I cannot express to you how honored and humbled I am to receive this recognition. I want to thank the Hutchins Center and Skip Gates and Harvard because it allowed me to call my mother to say today and to say to her, I finally made it to Harvard. For a historian, W.E.B. Du Bois is the gold standard, a gifted and pioneering scholar who used his scholarship and his brilliance to fight for a freer and fairer America. When I was a kid, I was asked to do a book report, and I asked my dad, who should I write about? And I thought he was going to say Willie Mays or Mickey Mantle. Instead, he gave me Du Bois, The Soul of Black Folks. I didn't know what that was. And everybody in my class, when I gave the book report, didn't know what it was. But what I realized is that that publication inspired me and has been my North Star during my entire career. Because Du Bois gave me something I didn't know. He gave me a calling. He gave me a way to use history as a tool, no more than that, as a weapon, that forces America to confront its tortured racial past and it challenged America to live up to its stated ideals. So when we created the National Museum of African American History and Culture, we wanted it to be a significant presence on the mall because we wanted to make sure that the millions who came to the mall, the millions who knew the Smithsonian, would have to understand how central it is to America to understand the African American experience. What we wanted them to know was they couldn't understand themselves because America is profoundly shaped by the African American experience. And it was clear to me that we needed to bring some color to the National Mall. So today, I'm humbled by this award, humbled by this amazing cast of great people that I'm on the stage with. But I'm humbled because I know you're really not bestowing an award on me. You're honoring the power and importance of history, of African American history. And what you're doing is recognizing all of us are standing on the shoulders of so many. So I accept this award tonight on behalf of all those enslaved women who arose every morning to care for their children before they labored in the field and who refused to let slavery strip them of their humanity. I accept this award on behalf of all those families that left Alabama and Mississippi for the South Side of Chicago. I accept this award on behalf of women like my grandmother, who took in other people's laundry, who scrubbed other people's floors so her children and grandchildren wouldn't have to work on bended knee. And I accept this on behalf of all those who, despite discrimination, who despite the criminal justice or injustice system, and despite the poverty they faced, believed in and fought for an America that was yet to be. So by honoring me, what you are saying is there is nothing more powerful than a people, than a nation steeped in its history. And there is nothing more noble than honoring all of our ancestors by remembering. So I will remember tonight, I will cherish this medal. I wish my dad was here to see it. Thank you. I'll remember it forever.